Okay, I thank everyone for coming today. Today's call, we're going to be talking about the Activity Manager and how to schedule and track correspondence with different customers. So you can basically, a way to look at it is kind of CRM management and looking at how you can track and see how your salespeople are interacting with your customers and see how the sales calls are going. All right, so the Activity Manager is accessed through the Activity Manager button at the top. It looks like a calendar. You click on it, and what that does by default is it opens up a calendar view. And what we're seeing here is a couple of different calendars that were created for the different employees. So like right now I can look and see, I can see my calendar, I can see Keith's calendar, I can see Billy's calendar, so I can see multiple different calendars at once. So if I'm kind of doing a CRM management, I could look and see what all the calls are scheduled. For the time being, let's go ahead and revert this back to just my calendar, and we'll show you how to create a view like that here soon. So when I click on the Activity Manager, I get basically it's really similar to the Outlook calendar. I get a calendar that is similar to that. I have the different days, the different times. I have a calendar over here on the right side and a couple different date views. So I can do a single day. So up here at the top at my calendar activity calendar, I can see a single day, 5-day, 7-day, or entire month. And I can use that to view the different activities that we have created. So I'm going to go ahead and use the 5-day. So what I can do now is if I want to kind of track the different calls that I've had, what I can do is I can go and select a time on here. So let's say I want to give one of my customers a call at 3 o'clock today. What I will do is I'll go ahead and select 3 o'clock here. I can double click on it, and that will open up the new call screen. So I can tell it what type of call this is. Is it going to be a call? Am I actually going to go meet the person? Is it going to be more of a meeting, appointment? So what type of contact is this particular call that I'm having with this customer? So we'll do a call. The subtype can be used if you wanted to kind of say it's a call, call cell or call office. If you just wanted to have a subtype of what type of call it is, you could type that in there. You can give it a reminder. So if you want to remind yourself about 5 minutes before the call actually happens, you can select a reminder here, and what it will do is when the call comes up, it'll pop up a screen asking you that you have this particular call coming up. Would you like to complete it, snooze it? It'll remind you however often it is that you set the reminder for. Priority, is it just a low priority, normal, high priority call? So how important is the call to you? And a description. So you can put in a description of what the actual call is. So in this case here, I could say just a basic description of what the call is, and then location. So if I was going to actually have a meeting instead of a call, I can go down in here and type in the location. So I could type in, customer's location, in shop. If it was an internal meeting, I could put in the conference room. Wherever the actual location of the call or this meeting is happening, I would put there. The next part is if I'm tying this particular call to a specific order, I can actually go and say this is for a order, and then open up the question mark here and search for any order it is in the system that I would be using on this particular call. Otherwise, if I'm not tying it to an order, I'm just calling a specific customer to kind of discuss new orders, I can skip the order part and come down here and say that the company that this particular call is for. So I click on the same magnifying glass. I'm going to refresh my customer list, so I get a list of all the companies. So we're going to go ahead and give Kyle's Test Company a call. So I click on that, and it will have, once I pick on that, it brings up the info for the company, info for the contact. So if there's more than one person at that company, I'd be able to specify who all the different contacts it is and who I am calling specifically. Down here, I have the section for, do I want to actually have a time, schedule a time? Do I just want to kind of put this on my calendar to remind me that I need to do it, but I don't really have a specific time for the call? I could do only schedule the date. If it's something that's going to last all day, I can do all day event and it will kind of schedule it for the entire day. And then also, if it's a call that I need to do, but I happen to forget it, or I miss, or I call in sick, or something causes me to have to miss the call on that particular day, I can have this rollover if not completed, and what it will do then is it will move the activity to the next day if I happen to miss it today. So if I scheduled it for today at 3 and I was out today, when I come in tomorrow, it'll be on the calendar for the 26th at 3 o'clock. I can make it a private event, so for the most part, most activities are able to be viewed and accessed by any employee in the system so that anyone can kind of keep an eye on what types of activities have been done. But if I click on the private event here, it marks it as a private activity, so that way only I can see this activity. Nobody else would have access to it to know what had happened. Start time and duration are just kind of the length of the call. So I marked it for 3 o'clock. If I wanted it to be a different time, I can click on the clock button and select from a list of preset times, or I can just go into here and say, type in the time that it's going to be. And then the duration will change to match by end time. With all that done, if it's a weekly call that you'd be doing with the customer, what you could do is after you have the activity information entered, you can make it a recurring activity. So it's going to say that you need to save the activity before you can make it recurring. Go ahead and say yes. So I can recur this activity on a daily, weekly, monthly, or yearly basis. So if it's something that happens quite often, rather than having to recreate the activity every time this comes up, I can make it a recurring activity that happens on a weekly basis. So go ahead and cancel for now. So there's my activity. Let's say there's more than one person that I would want to be able to track this particular activity with. I can go and say add remove calendars here at the top and click on that and give it a moment. But what this will do is this will bring up a list of all the different employees in the system. So I can say that it's on my calendar in addition to other people's calendars. So I can go and add it to my calendar as well as the system administrator calendar. And what will happen then is it will add that activity to both of our calendars. So once I save the activity, this activity will show up on both of our calendars so we can both see that we have a call coming up with this customer at 3:13. So I click on OK, and it puts the activity on my calendar list for me to be able to see. The nice thing now that does is if I pull up that particular company's record, explore companies, Kyle's Test Company, I can then click on the activity tab of the company record and see that particular call that we just created for the 23rd or the 25th at 3 o'clock. Meet with customers to discuss possible job offer. The nice thing though is with this company record, what I can do is I can click on the red button here and then check only contact activity. And what that does is that shows me every call, every contact activity that we've ever done with this particular customer. So what it does is it allows anyone in the system to kind of keep tabs on how many calls we've had with this customer, lets us know what's been done, lets us know, who all has called them, how many times they've called them, any kind of notes that have been stored there. So if I click through these different calls, I can look and see any notes that were stored on that particular call to see how the call went. If I double click on it, it opens it up into a bigger screen that just shows me all the information for that particular call. And also, it will mark whether the activity is complete or not. So what happens is if I go back to my activity manager, I'll see that I have the activity there. I can open it. And then I can go in here and start typing any notes. So if I want to kind of note, I called the person and, they were unavailable, or we talked, we spoke for an hour and we came to an agreement, what I can do is I can just start typing in here to put my notes. And one tip that you can use is if you could do Control plus Shift plus T, it puts a timestamp on the notes for you that notes the date, the time, and then the first name that you logged in as. And you can use that when you're typing your notes to kind of note when you're putting your note in there. So in here, I'm just going to say that called the customer. So I put my notes in there. So now I don't need to keep this activity open anymore because, I've called the customer. The correspondence is finished with this activity. So I can go ahead and click on Complete. So when you go to complete it, it's going to ask you, do you want to complete it on all the calendars that it's scheduled for or just on yours? So if you call the customer and the other person that's on the same calendar needs to call them as well, then you can complete it on just your calendar. Otherwise, if it's done for both of y'all, you go ahead and click on Complete on all calendars. So it will give you the opportunity to specify some more notes. So it brings in all the notes that you had already typed, and then I can go and add more notes if there was anything else that I wanted to add on to here. I have a set of results. I can specify that did not reach contact, rejected. I have a couple of different results that I can specify to kind of let somebody know that's reviewing the call to see how that call particularly finished. So in this case here, we called them and they were unavailable, so I did not reach my contact. I have a couple of different options here. I can, if I check this option here, the Open Customer/Contact, after I click on OK, it will open me up to the company record if I want to review anything about the customer record. I can click on the Schedule Again to allow me to reschedule this call after I've done it. And if I have that option checked, I gain the option to copy the notes. What that does is when it does my new activity, it pre-fills the notes with the notes of my previous call. So I'm going to go ahead and check the schedule again, uncheck the customer record because we already have that open, and then I can specify the completion time. Was it completed on a custom time? So I didn't, we had to call the customer back and we completed it at a different time, which defaults to the time that you're going to mark the activity as complete, or I can mark it completed as scheduled. So we'll go ahead and mark it complete on the actual time and date that it was scheduled for. So I'll go ahead and do that. Click on OK. So it opens up my new screen to be able to schedule it out here. So I'm going to go ahead and schedule another call for them for tomorrow on the 29th at the same time. Click on OK. There's my reminder from earlier. So what it does is, since we created the activity in the past, it had to remind us right now. So it has a reminder pops up. It shows you basically the information for the call. You have the contact type, you have who created the activity, the company that it's for, any notes. All the information about the call pops up in your reminder, and then it gives you the ability to either edit the activity, complete it, silence it, or snooze the reminder for X number of minutes. So I'm going to go ahead and silence the reminder, and it's going to give me that because I have it open in the background. So I'll just close it. So here's my completed activity record. So at the moment it shows who created the activity, who completed the activity, shows me the actual date that the activity was completed, and then the result that we marked. The time and the duration are marked over here, so I can get a quick overview of how long the call went and the result of the call by looking at the little status box here at the bottom of the activity. So I click OK, and the activity no longer shows on my activity manager list. That's because if I click at the top here, there's a section that says Show Completed. With that option checked, it shows me all the completed activities as grayed and crossed out. So that way I know that I called the person, but I'll see that I don't have to call them anymore because the activity is completed. A couple other things to note about this is this right now is the calendar view. I can also view these activities in a different format. At the very top of the Activity Manager, there are two tabs. There's one that says Calendar, and there's one that says Activity List. So if I click on the activity list, it gives me the same information, but in a list format. So right now, I don't have any activities scheduled for today. So I'm going to go ahead and change the date range on this to show me this week. So that's all the activities that are currently scheduled this week. If I click on Show Completed right here next to the date, that shows me all my completed activities crossed out. So I'll get a listing of all the activities that are due this week rather than seeing them on a calendar format. So this can be useful for kind of looking to see on a more volume level to see what all you have to do on a particular week rather than seeing what it is for each particular day. So one of the things that we looked at the start of the call was when I clicked on My Activity Manager, it opened up with multiple calendars instead of just My Calendar. So I'm going to go ahead and close all these screens and start from scratch. So with the Activity Manager, you can pull the drop-down next to it and see different preloaded calendar views. So what I can do is I can click on the Add Remove Views, and I can go through and add in multiple calendar views. So by default, My Calendar just shows me my calendar. What I can do now is I can go over to the right side, click on New, and do a new view, and I can call this Sales Rep View. And then I can just add in however many people that I want to see their calendar for in this view. So I'll add myself. I'll add the System Administrator. And I'll add Lori. So once I add the 3 people that I want to see, I can save it. I could also add, instead of going through and adding specific employees, I could add in an employee group. So if I wanted to add the entire sales group, I could have clicked on the employee group for sales and added it there. If I had a calendar for specific parts, I could also do that by using the part and part categories to add a calendar in for a specific part. But that is more of a different functionality. The main thing that we're focusing on here is the employee and the employee group. So once I have my employees added, I go ahead and click on Save, and that adds a new calendar view. So if I pull the drop down now, I'll see my sales rep view, open that up, and I'll see the calendars for me, the system administrator, and Lori. So that way I can kind of track all the activities that are going on for all my sales reps.